Good morning, beautiful souls. It's Anna T. Brooks. Welcome to day two of the 3 sneaky signs of people pleasing that are keeping you small. Say hello when you jump on. If you're catching the replay as well, say hello. I would love to know if you did watch day 1 already. I'm curious to know, what did you think? What kind of stood out to you the most? What maybe was a bit of a surprise to you? I'd love to know that biggest takeaway that you had from day 1 when we talked about being overly independent, really wearing that badge of honor of being strong and independent, and how that actually shows up as people pleasing. So I'd love to hear from you for that one. I'm just going to go ahead, give us a moment, see who wants to jump on, and I'm going to share this over into my group. So say hello as well when you're jumping on. Let me know you're there. Even if you're catching the replay, say hello, let me know. Okay, beautiful. Perfect. We are live. Okay. Amazing. So yes, say hello if you're jumping on. Let me know you're there. Let me know how you went with day 1. What was your biggest takeaway? Did you get any ahas? Did you get any kind of realizations, or just something that you weren't expecting as well? I'd be curious to hear how that landed for you, because day 1 was a big one. It was definitely something that surprised a lot of people, because again, and that's what I explained in day 1, this was such a sort of really covert and sneaky, and I think I used the word insidious way that we actually people please. So yeah, I'd love to hear how you found that. So today we are into day 2, and for day 2 I'm going to be covering a very different angle to what we covered in day 1, because I did want to make sure that each aspect here shows up in a very different way. So day 2 today of the 3 sneaky signs of people pleasing that are keeping you small is actually talking about if you identify or have ever identified as an empath, as being empathic, as maybe being psychic, as being very, very in tune with emotions and being able to read emotions very clearly as well. If any of this sounds really familiar, and at some point you have kind of used that as an excuse to say, so this is why I take on people's emotions so easily. This is why I'm so sensitive. This is why I can just tune in, and it's really hard for me not to absorb everybody else's energies because I'm an empath. If you've ever found yourself saying anything like this, anything in that sort of realm, this is going to be for you, okay? So I'd love to know, first and foremost, is this already resonating? Is this something that you're aware of? Is this something that you've perhaps seen others do as well? And this will, even if this isn't for you specifically, this might kind of explain some other people around you and what is actually going on for them as well. So this is good to know from all angles. So let's talk about, let's break first and foremost, let's break one myth that is very common when it comes to this, and that is people identifying as an empath. Identifying as, I am an empath, I am a psychic, I am someone who can read emotions very clearly, who can feel them, who can absorb them. Let's just get really, really honest and really, really upfront about this now. This is not a you thing. This is not a unique thing. Like, I'm going to kind of just blow that little bubble up. But this is not something that you are special, you are unique, you are a special, beautiful snowflake, but we are all empathic. We are all empaths. There is nothing about that is unique. The way that we absorb it, our experiences of it, the way that we then use that and work in the world, the way that we show up in the world, that is completely unique, absolutely. But there isn't any such thing as someone who's an empath and someone who's not, someone who's psychic and someone who's not, someone who can tune in and read emotions easily and someone that cannot. That's not a thing. We all have this gift, every single human. Are we all using it? Absolutely not, right? Are we all in tune with it? Absolutely not. Are some of us probably going to say that, you know what, actually, I'm not even a tiny bit psychic, like I have no woo-woo around me? Absolutely. There will be people who say that. And that's fine. The truth is, though, that they still are. They just aren't actually accessing that. That's all it is. So knowing this, knowing that actually everyone is an empath, every single person, this no longer can be a reason or an excuse for why you absorb other people's energies, right? Because we literally all have this same gift. This is how we are wired. This is part of our spiritual being in this human experience, because we are in a human body, absolutely, but we are souls. We are spiritual beings in a human experience. And part of that is that we are all empathic. We are all psychic. We can all read each other very, very easily, right? So this is where, you know, it's quite interesting, because what it actually means when you're saying things like, well, I'm an empath and that's why I don't, and that's why I absorb other people's energies so easily. What this actually means is that you have a lack of boundaries, right? And an understanding that helping somebody, right, when they are down, so really being able to feel into that situation, into how that person is going and into what's going on for them, having that gift and being able to feel into that and be empathic and actually put yourself in their shoes, so to speak. This is not an opportunity for you to have a lack of boundaries. Just because you can access that doesn't mean you have to pull yourself down into it, right? I'm sure you've heard that analogy in your life of, you know, if someone is down in a ditch, you're not going to be able to help them by climbing down into the ditch with them and sitting there and both being in a ditch, right? That's not actually helping them. It's not helping you. It's just you're just joining the situation. The way to help them is to offer them some help, is to be out of the ditch and go get a ladder, go get a rope, go get whatever it is, figure out some way to help them, to get them out of there so that they can come meet you where you are or wherever they want to be, but they're not in the ditch. Just getting down into the ditch with them helps nobody, right? And this is what happens when we identify as an empath and use that as an excuse to say, well, this is why I feel things so deeply. I feel everybody's emotions. I absorb them. And it's just so heavy because I'm such an empath. This is just a lack of boundaries. Because especially as spiritual beings in a human experience, we need to have energetic boundaries as well as physical boundaries. Physical boundaries are really, really crucial because they will actually protect your energy a lot of the time. But energetic boundaries and not letting yourself get to a place where you really, truly believe and continue to perpetuate this cycle of believing that I just absorb everybody else's energies. That's just who I am. Getting out of that cycle of perpetuating that over and over and over is the way that you actually set your energetic boundaries. So, and the reason that this ties into people pleasing, right? Because that's the whole point here, is the sneaky signs of people pleasing that are keeping you small, is because what's happening when you're in this cycle is that it makes you feel special, makes you feel unique, makes you feel like I'm different to other people. I'm maybe a little bit better than other people. Like, I'm just going to own it. I've had these thoughts as well myself. Makes you feel that sort of special and unique and maybe a little bit higher up, right? And you want others to be pleased with you. You want others to see you as special, as unique, as different. And especially because this way, when you say that, you know, oh, I can feel exactly what you mean. Like, I can put myself in that position. I can absorb your emotions. I can feel it so deeply. It makes them feel like you're putting them first, and therefore makes you liked, right? Or at least, you know, that perception of being liked is what happens. Because again, when we're in that position, what's actually happening is we are becoming a doormat, right? We think that others will like us. We think that this is, going to kind of endear us to them because we're putting them first. We're making it seem like, you know, you're my priority, when actually what that is saying to the person on an energetic level is that you don't value yourself. You don't value your self-worth. You don't value your self-importance. You don't value you being put first in any situation. And therefore, I'm a doormat, use me, right? And this is the issue. This is why it's so sneaky, because once again, like day one, like being the overly independent persona, it comes across so altruistic. It comes across so so advanced and so unique and so special that you think, well, there's nothing about this. This people pleasing. This is actually putting me in a better light. When actually, in reality, it's just teaching people that you're not capable of putting yourself first, that you're not capable of actually prioritizing yourself, right? When we're talking about that ditch, you're saying, well, I don't value where I'm at, so I'm just going to climb down into the ditch with you and we can both sit in this shit now, rather than, you know what, I actually want to help you. If you're willing to accept help, let's see how we can get you into a better state. Let's see how we can get you out of the ditch, as opposed to let's see if I can just get down in there with you, show that I can really, that I'm an empath, I can feel all of this, I can absorb all of this, and therefore I'm special, I'm unique because I can feel all of this with you, when actually this is now keeping them in the ditch. Now you're in the ditch, and now somebody else ultimately has to come along eventually and help you out, or you're going to have to figure your own way out later on, right? But this is that cycle. This is that what happens. This is that perpetuating cycle that happens when we strongly identify as an empath, as a psychic, as someone who feels very deeply, who absorbs emotions very deeply, which again, just to remind you what I said at the beginning, we all have this. We are all empaths. We are all psychic. There is nothing unique or special about that. Sorry, not sorry, right? It is literally something that we have access to, every single one of us. Again, not everyone is going to use this gift. Not everyone is going to access this. Not everybody is going to actually even acknowledge that they have this, for sure. Doesn't change the fact that everyone does. Being an empath is not a unique thing. Being a psychic is not a unique thing. It's something we all have access to. And there's no levels of being able to say, well, therefore, I'm so empathic that this is why I just absorb everybody else's emotions. That is simply a sign of your lack of boundaries, of your lack of physical boundaries and your lack of energetic boundaries, being able to actually say, you know what, I can empathize with what you're going through. I can see it, I can acknowledge, and I can hold space for you in that. But no, I'm not going to absorb that energy. I'm not going to get into that ditch with you, because this is not actually serving anyone. And even though in that moment, again, it makes you feel special because it makes you feel like you're unique, you can help them, you're putting somebody else first, and therefore they might like you a bit more. Ultimately, again, they might like you for a moment, right? But the problem is they're not going to respect you after that, because they're going to see you as the person who, again, has no self-respect for themselves, has no ability to value themselves and their worth in that moment. So, and this is why it's so sneaky, right? Because it's something that, especially in the last, I'd say, 5-10 years or so, it's been a really, really hot topic. It's been something that more and more people have become aware of. What is an empath? What is psychic? What is being able to absorb and feel emotions and to tune into people's emotions a lot more easily. And it became like a bit of a runaway train of like, I'm an empath, and what this means. By all means, if that feels good to you, for that to be part of your identity, go for it. You are empathic. It is what it is. Just make sure it's not becoming an excuse for why you just basically are overgiving to everybody else and not being able to put yourself first, not being able to actually honor yourself. So I'm curious to hear how that's landing for you. Does this make sense? And what does this bring up for you? Because I know a lot of people that, myself included, right, that have gone through this, that have gone through really identifying as an empath and using it as an excuse for why I basically couldn't emotionally regulate and couldn't stand up for myself and couldn't put myself first in certain situations. And this whole time, this didn't negate the fact that, like, the day one that I did the training about talking about being overly independent, that was two things that were able to coincide at once. I was able to be overly strong and independent and really putting on that persona to a really, really high degree. And I was able to do this as well, right? So the two are not mutually exclusive. You can absolutely do them together. And again, because they seem so the opposite of people pleasing, this is why it often gets missed. This is why we often don't see this in ourselves, and we don't actually see what the pattern is bringing up and how it's actually feeding more into that doormat energy over and over and over. So it's an interesting little cycle. But yeah, and this is why I wanted to mention everything in this way, because I think the more that you start to see and the more you start to put together, like obviously day 1 today, and then we've still got day 3 coming up next week, as you start to see how all of these things feed in together, it starts to become really clear that this is a much bigger picture than just one single thing or one single awareness that you can kind of start and just go, okay, cool, well, I'm going to change this. There's so many layers, and there's of course also all of the different aspects of why this is happening. What are the patterns here? Where did they originate from? How do we actually start shifting them, in the physical world, in the tangible things, but also energetically? How do we start to release some of these attachments and some of these needs for people pleasing, right? And this is where, so this is really, really powerful, obviously, to watch this and to absorb this and to start to take this forward and see how you can actually address this moving forward. But if you are wanting to go a little bit deeper and have that one-on-one and have somebody actually work through this with you, this is a real key component of what we do in Soul Journey. So if you're newer to me, Soul Journey is my 6-month one-on-one expansion container. This is an absolute deep dive, intensive working with me. I am with you every step of the way, and we have constant contact as you go through this journey. One of the key aspects of this coaching relationship is working on exactly this, working on the people pleasing, working on the self-sabotage, working on stepping outside of yourself and always being the one to overgive to everybody else instead of being able to actually focus on you and put you number one, right? So this is one of the key components that we actually work through in the 6 months, along with so much else. There's so many different aspects. Actually, I'll pop in while I remember. I'll just pop in the link for Soul Journey before I forget. Okay, perfect. I've just popped that in now. Hey, Jody. Hey. You're just jumping on as we're wrapping up. But yeah, I'm just popping that in there. So I was just saying that what we've talked about today, right? What we've talked about with identifying as an empath and the lack of boundaries that this actually shows, this is one of the key components that we work through in Soul Journey, because this is something that most of my clients come to me with, whether it's, someone that identifies very clearly as someone who overgives to others, whether it's very, very obvious, or whether it's a little bit more sneaky, like what I've been talking about in the last couple of days. Yeah, you're very welcome. You're welcome, Jody. And today as well, the signs of people pleasing that are a bit harder to see because they're actually being done by people who are actually coming across as very non-people pleasing, and therefore they're not even aware of it themselves, right? And so this is one of those areas that in Soul Journey that we really, really work into, is identifying where are you giving your power away and why? Where did this actually stem from, and how do we actually move forward from this? Along with all the other areas, which is why I've popped the link in there, because there's kind of too much to cover just in a quick live stream here. But I will actually, while I've got this, I will pop in some more details just so you can have a quick read. Here we go. All right. Actually, I might have some water while I do this. Okay. got one more. Okay. Perfect. I've popped that all in there now. Yeah, so this is that self-importance piece, which is a really, really key component of soul journey. There's a few transformation. I think there's six transformational outcomes that we really focus on. Self-importance is a big one, and this is really what we're covering in talking about people pleasing, because this is a lack of prioritizing ourselves, right? This is a lack of always accommodating to everyone else instead of to our own needs, and this is a key component of that. We also talk about congruence, about really feeling like you've met your true self, that you know who you are and you know how to stand up for yourself in that regard. Self-trust is another one as well, and this feeds into this because self-trust is really where it comes into how much do you trust yourself that what you will do what you say, you will do what you say you'll do, you mean what you say and say what you mean, and that you can actually follow through on what matters to you. So you can see how this all feeds in together. It's kind of that core component that if you can't be in that space of really feeling completely like you are your number one in your life, and that's not coming from a selfish energy, that's not coming from a I don't care about anyone else energy, it's simply coming from a prioritization energy of understanding that if I'm looking after myself first, there is more than enough for everybody else. Whereas if I'm constantly overgiving and my cup is now empty, I have nothing to give to anyone else either. When my cup is overflowing because I am prioritizing myself, everybody else gets to enjoy the overflow that's just coming out, right? And it's easy to be there for everybody else. And that's a different feeling, right? What we've been talking about today. It's a different feeling of that person in the ditch instead of, well, my cup's empty as well, so I'm just going to get in the ditch with you and we can both sit here and just be miserable, versus, you know what, my cup's overflowing. I'm going to go get a ladder. I'm going to go get some help. I'm going to talk you through this. I'm going to, whatever it is, raise you up, is a very, very different story than let me get in the ditch with you and we can both be miserable because I'm such an empath and I can tune into you and I can feel all of this and this is why I just absorb everyone's energy. None of this is powerful, right? And this is a big part of soul journey, is working into that self-trust, working into understanding that you get to come first, and therefore setting those really powerful boundaries, being able to be open to opportunities that actually align for you, and really tapping into your soul purpose and your superpowers, right? Because this is all part of it. We are all empathic, we are all psychic, but when we don't truly understand ourselves and don't trust ourselves and aren't in a space where we can actually be encouraged and guided and supported to open up these gifts and to expand into them and to trust into them, without that, we go our whole lives not really knowing who we are, why we're here, or what are we really, what's really powerful within us, because that is the unique part, right? You might be an empath like everyone else, you might be psychic like everyone else, but your unique superpowers, your way of actually showing up and using all of your gifts, all of your skills, all of your intuition, that is completely unique. And this is exactly why Soul Journey was created, because this is one-on-one, this is 6 months, you get to work with me quite deeply, and we go through a lot of coaching, we go through a lot of activations as well, and it is completely unique and personalized, because that's how we get to actually work out what is your superpower, or superpowers, more to the point, because I promise you, you do not just have one, right? So yeah, I've popped in the link obviously for Soul Journey into the comments, so you're more than welcome to go have a look, read the full information page obviously. There's a link at the bottom of the page to apply to have a chat with me if this feels exciting for you and this feels like something that you would like to chat about, see how this journey could look for you. Application form is just at the bottom of the page. Once you fill that out, I will be in touch with you within 72 hours and we'll set up a time to have a chat so we can really map this out for you, because like I said, there is a protocol, there is a bit of a structure obviously. However, it is completely unique and personalized as we go through it and as we set it up. So this is why I like to connect with you and actually, you know, get to know your soul to soul, right? So yes, I'd love to connect with you if that feels good. Just follow that link, application forms there at the bottom. But yes, apart from that, this is it for day 2. We've got one more sneaky sign of people pleasing to come. I believe I'll be doing that maybe Tuesday next week. So you've got probably about 3 days now to absorb, to kind of integrate, to go through what we went through today. If you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in as well. I will check back. I'll answer some questions. If they're kind of bigger ones, I might even answer them on the next live on the next day. So yeah, feel free to pop in any questions or just any thoughts that you're having as this all goes through for you. I'd love to know, what is your biggest takeaway? What is the thing that's kind of stood out to you the most? Or again, if this is for you, or if this is for, you know, even those around you that you're starting to notice, like, wow, I had no idea what was actually going on when they're like this. So yes, cool. All right, I will leave it there, and I look forward to seeing you for day 3 next week. Mwah.